Hey everybody, it's Master Galengeist here, bringing you my review for War of the Realms Omega Issue 1. And I really like this issue, and I wasn't expecting this. This is a really good conclusion to the War of the Realms while also setting up other series and other things that they're going to be doing in the comics. I really liked how this was done and the overall structure of it. I'm like, damn, this is a really important one that anybody following War of the Realms really needs to have. So we get into it and we see that Heimdall is pretty much getting back to his old self. He's got his eyes again and he is visiting Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen. And that Daredevil just kind of wanted to hold Heimdall's sword for like a last time because he just felt kind of more connected to it. He kind of was feeling a little bit lost after losing kind of the powers that he had gotten from the sword. And he's like, hey, I just wanted to hold a little bit before I return it to you. And he's like, hey, how about we look about what had happened? And of course, Heimdall was giving him praise for how he was, being the god without fear, and what he did with the Rainbow Bridge. But of course, he's like, but it was destroyed. But that Heimdall encounters after all of the forces were already had used the bridge and went on their missions to win the war. Yeah. So they decide to look over and see what's going on across the realms. First story we hit is Jane ruminating on the loss of the Valkyries and everything, and has seen them all in the morgue. And her one friend Lisa comes in, and they kind of talk. Lisa's thinking about going to damage control because she had also been within the superhero community, dating a superhero, and kind of wants to go off from that from being a paramedic. And they're kind of talking about like how a wrist is okay and whatnot, and evidently that they're thinking maybe this is the ultimate Thor's hammer's like true form, that it only took that form to be that hammer when it was needed. Now it's kind of reset. I'm like, that's an interesting way to go for it. It's like, okay, we'll have to see what goes on with that. But that's when kind of Thor comes in. He, of course, has, as the All Father, has to take his dead to their resting place. And the thing is that Valhalla, it's empty. There's nobody to shepherd the way, and the way is closed, and it's like really sucks. And just seeing that weight on him and that sadness for him really sucks. And of course, Jane feels that as well. And that's, of course, when the all weapon starts tingling and everything and going, and asks Jane to take up the role of Valkyrie. And she accepts. And of course, she's transformed. And it's pretty awesome. We see the spirits of the Valkyrie rising up as well. And she is now the new and only Valkyrie at the moment. And we'll have to see what goes on with Valhalla on that. It's like, wow, okay. And Thor's like, wow, all right, we'll have to see what's going on with that. And he's like, all right, that's a pretty good setup. I like that introduction for the whole Valkyrie and all going on. We move on and we see what's going on in Jotunheim with Loki, and we see this little frost giant trying to have fun with a lid, and because he had taken the lid off this boiling pot and it had burned some of the frost giants, they're getting ready to kill his ass. I'm like, God damn. Appropriate reactions. But he was sledding and he ran into Loki, and we see that Loki's the one kind of narrating, talking about everything going on, the cycles, and maybe sometimes after all these Ragnaroks and everything, people need to live and all that. I'm like, yeah, okay, that'll be interesting to see how he's got that kind of lifestyle. He now, of course, has come back from the Rainbow Bridge, and the little frost giant is like, how'd you use it? Oh, I kind of went back and used kind of time to do it, and he'd evidently went and gotten Thor's axe. It's like, okay, we'll have to see how he uses that. But the rest of the frost giants come up and they want to eat him, and he's like, I'm not going to let you eat this guy. And he's getting ready to use magic and everything. But these small frost giants, no, there's been too much blood. And the other frost giants getting ready to like take him out and take out Loki and be like, hey, that's the end of the kings. And the little frost giant and his lid from the pot becomes giant and blocks it and everything. He's like, fine, all right, we'll just leave this for now. There'll always be other wars. And talking about Loki kind of finding a different path and how he'll be like a king of the shield, as we see the smaller frost giant has the lid and he has a different mark on it and everything. And I'm like, it's interesting that Loki would do the shield since he is usually made fun of, kind of like Captain America and everything like that. And see kind of how he goes from there. I am intrigued to see now that we've got pretty much all Father Thor and King Loki, how that's going to kind of work out and how their ruling styles are going to be different and how they're going to have to interact with each other. So the next part that we see is the Punisher. And, of course, between each of these, we get very nice art style shifts that work very well. And this one works very well for Punisher as he's going through, and he sees some looters taking some food, and he's like, hey, come back and pay for that. Here, the barbecue's on the house. Flamethrowers a frost giant corpse, and then lets them go, and then they actually try and go to eat it. I'm like, that's messed up to me. Now, granted, it's totally in line with something that Frank would do, but I'm like, that was a sentient creature. It's not like it was a dog or whatnot. I'm like, if I was hungry or whatnot, potentially, but I'm like, oh. But that's the dire situations that we've got in New York after the War of the Realms. So Frank's going around, finds a dog, fucking takes a grenade launcher, blows its head off. I'm like, yeah. And he's walking around and he sees that some of these gods are just partying it up, celebrating the end of the War of the Realms. And he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? He's like, just calm down, mortal. And Frank's like, fuck that shit. Starts going at him a little bit. Doesn't kill anybody of them, but of course Thor pops down and says, hey, dudes, we're not done. We gotta clean up shit. And of course Thor's going over to Frank and like, hey, you need some help or whatnot? He's like, hey, I'm looking for some killers. And he's like, it's pretty much everywhere. And goes off. It's like, oof. Oof. So Frank then goes to find one of the people that he was looking for. He comes to this guy Jones at a graveyard and he says that the killer that I was looking for went off to the cesspool that he had spawned from, so he's going to go after him. He's like, thanks, Frank, but I want to introduce you to some people that were orphaned, and hey, I told him I knew a monster hunter. So this is setting up for Frank to go after and go on his own kind of crazy-ass adventure, and just the look of shock on his face, like seeing all these kids in this van, it's like, he's going to have a lot of work to do. He's going to have a lot of list names, kind of like how he was going after the Hydra people after Secret Empire, so good effective setup. We then end as we see that like Daredevil is thanking Heimdall for showing him most of that stuff, and how he is acknowledging that Daredevil was good, and that he was better than some gods that were born to divinity, and that he has a gift for him, that he had made some stabs, well, not like stabs, but like his usual kind of fighting implements out of the world tree, carved out of Yggdrasil that had grown from the sun. I'm like, that's really cool. And you know, like, thank you. And kind of like, with all the things that you've done, your role in the War of the Realm, know that there's a place in Valhalla for you and reserved for you. He's like, hey, could you get that to my dad? He deserves it better. And I'm like, I've already got a place reserved in the other place. And I like kind of the different kind of stuff that was going on with this, him talking about him being Catholic and the nuns and all that, and having to juggle what's going on with the Norse pantheon and all that. And I know that Daredevil does one of his main things is being hard on himself, and I'm like, you were a hero. You did a lot of heroic things. You turned the tides of battles. You deserve the rewards that you're going to be getting. And then we see that he, of course, hears that somebody's being mugged, asks if Heimdall wants to go out for him, and he's like, verily, let's do this shit. And they go off to go help, and I'm like, man, that was pretty sweet. I'm glad that we're seeing all these different kind of wrap-up aspects of the War of the Realms. We get the conclusion of the event in War of the Realms. We get the main kind of conclusion aftermath with Thor in Thor 15, and this gives us even more kind of closure on different other characters, while also setting up different series that are going to be going on. And I just really enjoyed this book, and if you've been following War of the Realms, you really kind of need this. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.